Hello everyone, this is Diego Saldivar, a neurogame developer. And I have excellent news. Yes, I've been away for a little bit of a while, but that's because I was starting a new job in a new country, so that was an exciting thing for me. And of course, that kept me a little bit busy. Anyway, so in my previous video, I did talk about this neurogame template using the Interaxon Muse. And I still had a little bit of a hurdle to overcome before I could distribute it. And that was basically a distributing license, which I now have. And now you can get your own Muse, which is quite cheap in comparison to other brain-computer interfaces, and start making your own neuro games using this template free of charge. You just have to go to this GitHub link. I will also be putting that in the commentaries below, and you will be ready to go. And in it, you'll have some documentation about it, but also there's this wiki that I'm very proud of. In it, you will find the typical template documentation for you to understand the details about how it works, and also you have some information about the technology it is using, as well as some information about neurology. It's made for game developers. Don't worry, there's not very deep information. For that you will have to go elsewhere. But this should give you the very basics for you to understand what kind of information you're getting and why. Also, I briefly talk about neural rights and how to apply them to neurogames. This is going to become important, I guess, in the very near future, as well as licensing. There is something very interesting that I would like you to pay attention to. The Interaxon SDK, which allows you to communicate with a Muse, is conceived to be non-commercial for this template. More information about that here in the wiki or in the agreement itself. Now, if you follow the link, you may notice that you can download a build, but not the source code in and of itself. As part of the distribution agreement I have with Interaxon, I have to have a list of who is using their SDK, which is fair. So in this GitHub link, you'll find that there's another link to a form. In this form, you're requested to give very easy information, such as your name, your email, and your GitHub account, so that then I can add you to the private GitHub repository so that you can download the source code free of charge. Of course, you also have to agree to Interaxon's terms, which are very standard if you have read any end user's license agreement. But there's one thing that I would like to make you very aware of. This is a non-commercial agreement. If you want to make money out of these neurogames, you have to enter a commercial agreement with Interaxon. More information about that you can also see in the wiki or in the agreement itself. Otherwise, if you want to just distribute these neurogames for free, there will be absolutely no problem there. There's also a brief survey that you can add if you want. It just helps me to understand the interest of the community, and that's it. You can submit, and I will be manually adding you to the GitHub repository as soon as I can. Now, as for the template in and of itself, there's not much different from what you saw in my last video. There's just an SDK update, and that's basically it. You can use the template to quickly iterate using the Interaxon Muse. You also have a scene that gives you, at a glance, the data that's the most useful to game developers, although the interfacer in and of itself, may I remind you, has a lot more data that you may want to use if you have a larger team. You also have a gameplay example where you can see how these data can be directly applied into objects and even particles inside of the game. Other than that, everything is up to you now. I hope that you find this template very useful, and I'm looking forward to seeing your very first neurogames. I hope that you have some excellent spooky holidays as we take this time to remember the dead. I love you, Dad.